How did you get here? What is this place? What is the story of Conan Exiles? The lore of this game is deep and hard to find, so today we'll explain everything that happened before you arrived on the exiled lands and why things are as they are. Eons ago, the world was ruled by the elder races. Serpent men, harpies, drowned and more, primordial beasts who enslaved humanity to toil in their empires. In time, the humans revolted and overthrew the elder races. The ensuing war chased them from their homes to the Isle of Siptar, where a dark figure, Nyarlathotep, gave shelter to the elder races by way of the tower and the shining trapezohedron within. The storm protected the isle from the humans, and the elder races flourished in their new haven, save for one. The serpent men were unable to breed on Siptar. Desperate, they received word from a hidden group of their kin that a creche of young had been birthed in a far-flung volcano, a hope of salvation for their race. The serpent men stole the trapezohedron from atop the tower and travelled to the volcano to be with their kin. Without the gem to power the maelstrom, the isle was vulnerable again. Humans arrived, continuing their age-old war with the elder races. In time, the elders came together with Nyarlathotep to reforge the shining trapezohedron, but it was flawed. The new maelstrom tore open a passage to the outer dark, a realm of demons and horrors that ravaged the isle. The elder races built great vaults and retreated inside them, safe from the maelstrom, but ultimately dooming themselves to a solitude that would see them devolve, losing their previous power as the storm raged on. In the exiled lands, the giant kings came from the void. They arrived in a fertile place of grass and trees, not sand and stone. They established a kingdom of their own, holding dominion across the land, their empire centred in the unnamed city. Among them were the priest king, the archivist, and the warmaker, three rulers who made up the triumvirate. They built roads, aqueducts, even an arena beneath the sands. Their complex and arcane culture is long forgotten by most, but the giant kings gave shape to the land, as did their worship of Set, the old serpent. In time, they travelled north where the mountains were stone, not yet snow. They found within the volcano the serpent men who had escaped Siptar. In their encounter, the serpent men took note of the giant kings and their possession of the serpent ring of Set, an ancient artifact of their people. They gave the giant kings the staff of the triumvirate, a curse wrapped in a gift unknown to the giant kings. After the cataclysm, the Lemurians fled their sinking homelands, eventually reaching the eastern shores of the exiled lands. Led by the Witch Queen, they travelled inland, where they eventually came across the Giant Kings. Thinking them gods, they knelt before them, and the Giant Kings gave them the east, where the Lemurians would build their new capital of Zelhar. To facilitate their relationship, the Lemurians and the Giant Kings built bracelets to allow communication, infused with sorcery and adorned with a radiant green gem. In the 1,000 years that followed, the Lemurian population would swell, whereas the Giant King's ranks remained low, owing to their slow births. Despite that, the Priest King had a son by an unknown Lemurian woman. This child, Tyros, would become a great fighter in the arena, eventually slaying a great dragon and burying its corpse beneath the sands after pinning his newly won Star of the Champion to it. Some whispered rumours of sorcery being involved in the birth of this half-human, half-giant king's son. In this time, the Witch Queen too had a daughter, Telith. Eventually, the Lemurian population grew so much that the Witch Queen, eager to not encroach on the territory of their hosts, sent a scouting party north. Instead of a new home, they found within the volcano a city of twisting temples to the elder gods, and deeper still, the Serpent Men. An ancient enemy of humankind, the Lemurians remembered their crimes and confronted the Giant Kings with it. They demanded to exterminate the serpents, but the Giant Kings refused. The staff of the triumvirate whispered to the archivist, and lulled by it he activated the curse wall, triggering the death weave in the bracelets. No Lemurian could leave the boundaries of these lands without meeting death. Thus began the Lemurian Uprising. It is unclear who struck first, but the war raged on. The Giant Kings used the bracelets to enslave the Lemurians, and in turn the free humans destroyed the aqueduct in the north, starving the capital of water. They built an outpost further north, Zulan, to keep eyes on the Serpent Men's scourge, and the Witch Queen began to formulate a potent sorcery. The Triumvirate called on the Silent Legion, an army commanded by Tyros, son of the Priest King. They were sent to Zulan, where they took the outpost from the Lemurians, intending to hold it against them. Despite that, at Zulan, Tyros met Telith, daughter of the Witch Queen. Despite being on separate sides, a love grew between them, and Tyros eventually switched his allegiance to the Lemurian side of the war. The Silent Legion followed their commander, bolstering the ranks of the humans. The Archivist sued for peace between the two sides, agreeing to meet in the Circle of Swords, an ancient site where sorcery was forbidden. Despite his pragmatism, he met the blades of the Lemurians and the Legion. His physical form perished in the circle, yet his soul was reborn in the archives at some later date, his ghost now haunting the dust-laden shelves. Sometime later, the Lemurians brought a fighting force north of the unnamed city, beside Clael's stronghold. During the ensuing battle, the sorcery formulated by the Lemurians was utilised, rending the earth and turning the Giant King's armies to stone, creating the ruined crater of the Shattered Springs. The survivors fled south, where the staff of the Triumvirate whispered again. Under its influence, the Priest King convinced the Warmaker to unleash a great sand elemental, a hurtling sandstorm to scour the lands of the Lemurians and kill off the resistance. The Warmaker reluctantly agreed and unleashed the storm. Despite his efforts, it was all for naught. Petruso, a Lemurian man, bound the coming storm to his flesh, locking the elemental into a temporal loop, doomed to repeat the same cycle over and over, incapable of completing the ritual. The Priest King left for the north to meet with his son, Tyros. They duelled at the Mounds of the Dead, where Tyros secured victory. In his dying breath, the Priest King, influenced by the staff, cursed Tyros with endless life. The curse bound to his armour, and Tyros was tormented by its whispers, branded as the Kinscourge. The dragon he slew in the arena rose again, and Tyros would eventually retreat to the Black Keep with his fellow cursed legion, sentenced to everlasting life as he rots within his armour. The Priest King, after being interred in the barrow west of the Mounds, would be resurrected after his death by his diadem of the Giant Kings, father and son cursed with undeath. Eventually, the sandstorm brought only devastation. It transformed a lush, fertile grassland into a scourged, eroded desert, dooming the last of the Giant Kings to a slow, lingering death, hunted by the remnants of the Lemurians. In time, the Lemurians would spread, breeding with other groups and dissolving into new races. Much later, the Kari would flee their falling empire and arrive on the exiled lands, only to be swallowed by the sand. The remains of their city is found beneath Sepameru in the wine cellar. Life became scarce in the exiled lands, and the sands grew quiet. Many millennia later, a visitor came upon the ruins of the Giant King's empire. Thoth Amon, a sorcerer of the Black Ring of Stygia, found the Warmaker in the unnamed city. He sat with him, learning his language and learning of the fallen civilization. He was told of the Serpent Ring of Set and the slave bracelets, later finding them within the city. Returning to Stygia, Thoth exercised his newfound power, gaining rank in the Black Ring with his serpent ring of Set, and gaining political power with the slave bracelets. He came first to King Ctesiphon of Stygia, offering an inescapable, far-flung confinement for political prisoners, an offer he would later extend to many rulers around the world. They would give their problems to Thoth Amon, who would have them sent to the exiled lands, never to escape. Thoth too would benefit, as the prisoners would dig up the relics of ages long past, items Thoth would acquire through paid mercenary purges, until they were seen off by a Stygian army incursion, themselves seeking the riches of the lands. That is where you come in. Crucified, close to death, a Cimmerian stranger cuts you down from the corpse tree and lets you loose on the exiled lands. This strange place, riddled with ruins and the history of eons past, has come to be your prison. There is no hope of escape, unless you can reforge the artifacts of old and disable the ancient bracelet. And there we have it, an introduction to the lore of Conan Exiles, all of the history that underpins your arrival in the exiled lands. This is very much a macro look at the history. Almost every event mentioned has far more nuance and detail, but we'd be here all day if I tried to cover it all in one video. Nevertheless, I have a ton of lore videos already up on the channel covering the Kinscourge's children, the fate of the Witch Queen, the magical snow in the north, the Dreamlands theory, and much more. This is merely an introduction into the expansive lore of Conan Exiles. Thank you for watching, and of course let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more Conan Exiles content and check out the Patreon to get that content early, link in the description alongside my Discord, music channel and more. On that note, a thanks to our wonderful patrons and YouTube members for continuing to support the channel. Take care, and I'll see you soon.